Hi, folks. Welcome to our Demystifying Copyright for the Ensemble Director session. Before we get started, I have just a couple of housekeeping notes for you. We invite you to check out the downloadable Publisher's Choice lists linked on the event homepage. These PDFs are Smart Music series and title recommendations from some of our publishers that are linked directly to Smart Music. All live sessions today will be recorded and will be available on Huvo within the week. They will be available exclusively to you until the end of July. We also have provided a downloadable certificate of attendance linked in the description for each live session today. I also dropped that link as well as a few others in the chat just now. If you have a question that we are unable to answer during this session time, we encourage you to join a community board where your questions will be answered. I do also want to note we have a Q&A section, and if you see a question that someone else has posted, go ahead and upvote that so I know what to pass along up to our presenters here. With that said, I would like to introduce our presenters for today. Mandy Varga has been in the music publishing industry for over 20 years and is currently the Director of Royalties and Distribution for Alfred Music and Make Music. She holds degrees in both music education and business administration and is a frequent speaker on copyright and music business. Mandy has served on the board of directors for the Music Publishers Association of the United States since 2015 and currently serves as their vice president. Jay Berger earned his Juris Doctor in 1988 and has worked in the music industry representing a far range of clients, including publishers, record labels, and recording artists and songwriters from just about any genre you can think of. Jay is a frequent copyright lecturer who has spoken at regional and national music industry conventions. Larry Clark is the president of Excelsior Music Publishing, Wingert Jones Publication, and RBC Publications, where he strives to focus on representing composers first and publishing high-quality educational music. With more than 25 years of experience in the music publishing business, Larry continues to fulfill his lifelong dream of being a founder, composer, author, and publisher. His pieces have been performed internationally and appear on numerous contest and festival performance required music lists. Last but not least, Michael Warden is the manager of business affairs at Alfred Music. He's a classically trained vocalist and musician who has composed and produced music for various independent films, theatrical productions, web series, and podcasts. Michael has also served as the music supervisor on numerous film and theater projects. And before I hand it off, I do want to show a quick disclaimer and mention that this information, the information presented here in today's session, does not constitute legal advice. Therefore, please consult an attorney for specific copyright advice. Thank you all for speaking with us today. Mandy, I'll let you take it from here.
Thanks, Greta. Welcome to our panel discussion on copyright for music educators. Let's dig right in and start off by asking each of you, what's the most frequent copyright question that you are asked? Jay, why don't you lead us off?
Sure. Over the last, I'd say, year or year and a half, basically, with respect to COVID, most teachers asked two things. Number one, my kids aren't in school anymore. I have copies, hard copies. Can I make digital copies and send it to them so they can learn their music and play their music? That was the biggest. I must say, I must have gotten hundreds of those questions from teachers. And my answer to each one of them was go ahead. You know, we did not, the pandemic raised certain issues, and we wanted the kids to continue to play music. So I gave the teachers the rights to go ahead and make those copies. But that was like the biggest question I got. The second one was, since we can't have concerts, I want to do these videos. I want to live stream and I want to create these videos and upload it to YouTube. What do I need? And the answer to that question is you needed a sync license. A lot of these teachers were uploading it to either their school website or YouTube or Facebook for 6 months, a year, to give their parents, family members, and other people who wanted to view the concerts a chance to see the kids perform because they could not come, to school in person to see that. So the two biggest questions I got was, can I make copies because my kids aren't in school? And number two was, I need to upload these videos. What do I do? And of course, we gave them the information on how to obtain sync licenses and how to upload those videos to whatever social media platform or website they wanted to.
Great. And I think we'll dig into both of those questions as we go in here and how to do that in the future now that we're starting to come out of the COVID learning era. Larry, how about you?
Yeah, I 100% agree with Jay, especially during COVID. That was the big things that we got over and over and over again. Post-COVID and pre-COVID, it always is about, can I make photocopies of scores for festival contests, MPA, whatever you call it in your area. And the other one that we get, time and time again is, can I make an arrangement of this without having to pay any fee or stuff like that of one of, the pieces that we publish, whether that be for marching band or for a small ensemble or whatever that might be. So those are the two big ones we get very commonly outside of
outside of COVID, right? And I think we will touch upon making arrangements here as well today. So how about Michael?
The same thing with the video streaming. They want to know, a lot of the teachers want to know about the streaming rights. Like, what's the difference? Can they live stream it versus keep it up versus a sync? And it's intricate answers. Every publisher might have their own different opinions on what is permitted, what's allowed as far as live streaming versus a sync license. Permission's always needed is what I always say. I was like, always reach out to the publisher no matter what. And the other question that we get a lot, especially around festival time, it kind of arranges into photocopy and arrangement licensing. And that is what constitutes an arrangement versus a transposition versus I just want to change 4 bars. What do I need permission in? And so a lot of that just involves us really digging into the piece itself and seeing if we feel it materially changes the piece itself. So those are some of the questions that we get regularly.
Right. All right, well, that makes sense, so that we probably dive right into making videos. So maybe Larry, can you tell us a little bit more about what license is needed to videotape a school performance and maybe how they would go about getting a license?
Of course, similar to what Jay had to say with Carl Fisher, Excelsior was the same way. We allowed people to do that during COVID. Of course, post-COVID, I think the biggest thing, and it really goes with any copyright situation, is if you think in terms of what is it you're trying to do, is that you trying to avoid some sort of a purchase? And are you doing something to circumvent actually purchasing something? So that would go for photocopying, stuff like that. But as far as video goes, that's a little more complicated because video isn't like a recording, a CD, where that's a compulsory license that's established by law, and there's exact amount that you have to pay. Video has to be it's a sync license, and so you have to actually negotiate that with each and every publisher that you want to use on those the performances or whatever, especially if there's any kind of money involved. It's a lot different when there's no money changing hands, but if there's money involved, that really changes everything.
Okay, yeah. And Mike, how would a teacher find who to contact for a sync license? Is it, I mean, like for CDs, you could do it all through Harry Fox or one agency and get all of your licenses together. But for a sync, how would you do that if you are just a teacher doing educational type products?
Sure. The best thing is to reach out to whoever's selling the product, and they'll be able to put you in contact with who the copyright owner is. There are a lot of titles that probably all 3 of our companies publish that we might not own the rights to, but we have licenses where we can exclusively print them. We can, or not exclusively print them. We're allowed to print them and sell them, but we're not allowed to grant permission to do the sync licensing. So if you reach out to us, if you reach out to Alfred, we can point you in the right direction. We can say, hey, this is a EMI song, you need to go to Sony, or this is a Warner song. We can give you the contact information. And if it is an Alfred owned piece that we can, then we'll tell you the parameters of what a license would mean, whether it's keeping it up on YouTube, Vimeo, putting it up on your own website, or just a live stream.
Sure. So is that why the time frame sometimes is different? If I'm contacting Carl Fisher for an original concert band work, it may take a lot less time than a popular tune. You know, a Harry Potter arrangement might take longer, is because Alfred doesn't control the video rights. Is that correct?
Yes, exactly. So we'll point them to Warner Chappell, and Warner Chappell or Warner Brothers Entertainment or Universal. They're dealing with a lot of sync rights for big motion pictures and television and stuff. So it may take a little bit longer for them to get back to them.
Right. So how long would you suggest a teacher, how far in advance should they start to get in touch with people to?
A minimum of 30 days. I would say a minimum of 30 days. Okay. Anytime you know you're going to put the video up, and in today's day and age, I hate to say post-COVID, but post-COVID, we're still there, but we're going to still have live streams. And we've seen the schools going back to live concerts, and they now have the technology. And they want to be able to live stream it for the family who don't live in that town, for the people who aren't there. So if you know you want to, or even might want to, reach out as early as possible, get these permissions, get them in place. And then if you don't live stream it, you're fine. You know, if you don't sync it,
Right.
and worry about that later.
Right.
I have a
Jay,
quick
is there-
follow-up question about sync licenses. It says, in terms of sync license, what about old music that is out of print? And this question is coming from Timothy.
Jay, do you want to chime in on that one?
Yes. When you say out of print, the real question is whether it's still under copyright protection. So even if a work is out of print, for example, in Carl Fisher, we have many works that may not be great sellers. Okay. They may, for example, we may have sold many copies years ago, but it's kind of like faltered. It's not a great sell. As long as the work is still under copyright protection, you're going to need a license if you want to use that work. So even if it's quote unquote out of print, or what we call POP, permanently out of print, you're still going to have to contact the publisher to get permission to use the work, no matter whether it's in print or not, as long as the copyright protection still exists. That's the key. And there's two, actually, we'll probably get into it later, but there's two things that you have to understand. You always have to look at two things. Number one would be, when was the work originally copyrighted, what year? And number two, even though it may be a really old work, you have to check to see how old or how far away are you from the death of the composer. So there are two avenues you have to look at. Number one, when was it originally copywritten? And number two, especially in foreign countries that are now life plus 70, as well as the United States, whether the composer died recently, even if he created the work back in 1922, if he or she lived a very, very long life, it may still be under protection in countries around the world. So there's two things you have to look at to determine whether a license is necessary.
What about, Jay, what's the difference between, and are there different rules for live streaming and putting a video up on YouTube that they want to keep in perpetuity?
You know what? That is the, as we like to call, the $64,000 question. Okay. If you remember that game show way back when. Okay. There are two schools of thought. A lot of people believe that under an ASCAP or BMI license, you can do a live stream and it doesn't cost you anything. Okay. That as long as you have that license, that you're fine, and that will be taken care of in public performance income. There are other publishers that take the position as well that, it is, you're live streaming, you have an audio, you have a visual aspect in this recording, therefore you need a sync license. Okay. Now, the question is now, if you want to take that video and then upload it to YouTube or a website, we take the position that once you're uploading to a website, it's going to maintain on that website for any specific measure of time, a sync license is necessary. So there is a tough question about the stream, the live stream, but with respect to actually uploading the video to a website or a social media platform, we take the position that that absolutely needs a sync license.
So do schools get ASCAP and BMI licenses, or do they not need them, like a high school, a general high school?
Yeah, I mean, typically if your high school has an ASCAP license, I would be very, very impressed, because there's no chance in hell they have. Let's be honest. So I could tell you what we have done, and the question that came to us is that I want to live stream it for just the length of the concert. Okay, I know I have 30 different works in it. There's, it's a band concert, it's a choral concert, whatever it is. So we took the position based, especially in COVID, okay, that we have to let the parents see. Okay, so we took the position that if you're just going to do a one-day live stream for the length of the concert, we were not going to charge you a license fee, because we felt, even I could tell you from my own perspective, I have kids in band and orchestra, and they play a lot of Larry Clark work. So I know that what's being played. So, when they came to me, my kids' schools actually came to me for certain works. And for purposes of just the live stream concert, we did not charge. But if they wanted to then upload it to, YouTube for like 30 days, a lot of them were doing it for a year. Okay, then we charged them a sync license fee.
So the question is, or the answer really is to check.
To check. You have to contact the publisher. Michael has said it perfectly clear. When in doubt, ask the publisher. I mean, that's really how you should go about it.
There you go. So, also schools in general do not get ASCAP or BMI licenses. So even more of a reason to, if you're just live streaming, to contact the publisher.
Absolutely. The only real schools that have it are colleges. Pretty much every college has an ASCAP and BMI license, but the Roosevelt Middle School, not going to have it. It's just not going to have it.
Gotcha. But there's also, I think there's some confusion over what YouTube does cover, because there are schools of thought that YouTube is paying the publishers. So, if it's YouTube or Facebook, like a live stream,
Right.
the rule of thumb still is to contact the publishers.
Contact the publisher. Right. And now, as you're probably well aware, even if you're just uploading like an audio to like YouTube or an audio to even Amazon, there's a new collective agency that pays royalties on that, so that they don't have to pay a mechanical license fee. That, for example, it's called the MLC. So when you upload an audio recording to, say, for example, Amazon Music or Spotify or something to that effect, the publishers of the internet now getting paid for that. Mm-hmm. And getting paid every time an audio is listened to and logged on the system. So we're expanding now. The best thing about being in 2022 is that we're actually learning like how to expand with the new ways and methods of, basically disseminating music, which is great.
Right. And the MLC mechanical is for audio only, correct?
Yes, audio only. That's correct.
Perfect.
Yeah. So the YouTube question, sorry, I'll go into the YouTube question is really difficult, because some of the big major megas like Warner Chappell and Universal, they have direct deals with YouTube where they will pay them directly. In order for some of the other publishers to do that, we have to monetize our video, become a monetization agency, and then go onto each video and say, hey, this is our song. And then we're going to take some school's song or video and we're going to monetize it. And so that every commercial that runs on that will get paid on that. And not, but if you went to Alfred or if you went to one of these publishers and got a license, you might be able to, in the license, if you said you're going to monetize it, you've already paid us for the sync. The school can monetize it and make the money off of those videos, off of all those plays.
Yeah, and if say you're getting close to your concert and you've gone and contacted all the publishers and you have all of your licenses all set, except for maybe one song you haven't heard back from that publisher, should you just go ahead, or is the rule of thumb to maybe exclude that song from your concert or from the video? Because some of them take a lot longer than others.
If you're going to do a sync license, if you're going to keep the video up there, I would not advise at all anybody to put a song up you're not cleared on, because what'll happen is you get a copyright strike, the whole video gets taken down, and if your page gets 3 strikes, your whole school could lose their YouTube page.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So just exclude that song from the stream. Just stop recording for that song until you have the clearance. Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, thanks. I think that is the top question most people are asking right now is video. It's a very complicated one. So hopefully that helps. Let's switch on over to arranging music for school groups. So there are many situations where a teacher wants to make their own arrangement for their ensemble, maybe marching band or an a cappella choir. They may want to take an original concert band piece and arrange it for marching band. So let's talk maybe a little bit about that. Larry, that seems to be a specialty on your side for some of your concert band works. I've heard a lot played by a marching band.
Yeah.
Where does that, well, I have, where does that fall? Where do you have to get a license?
Yeah, obviously, if you're going to arrange it in any sort of manner that's different from in terms of ensemble. So if you're going to take it from concert band to marching band, or you're going to take it from orchestra to marching band or whatever, if you're switching ensembles, certainly you're going to have to get some sort of a permission to arrange. The biggest thing I want to start with, though, on all of really covers everything, though, is that we're not all of us, all the companies you're seeing here represented. We're not out to get you as an educator and try to just get as much money out of you. I mean, honestly, all we're trying to do is our job in terms of our responsibility to the composer as well. It's a lot of money that could be made by those composers that is probably getting lost because people are doing the wrong thing. And then the second thing I want to stress is that, are you teaching your students that music has value? And if you're not following the copyright law and you're not getting these permissions, then essentially you're teaching your students through photocopying music or doing arrangements without permission that music has no value. And unfortunately, what will happen eventually is if we keep doing that, there'll be a lot less music available for us to use in education. But as far as the permission to arrange goes, it's complicated in the fact that it's similar to the sync license. You have to contact the publisher. You have to get that permission. Again, I feel strongly that the folks that are represented here try really hard to be sensitive to the fact that it's an education ensemble and we're not trying to gouge you as far as price and things like that. But it's the right thing to do in order to make sure you're doing what's legal for your students in the presentation of whatever performance you're trying to do.
Gotcha. So where is the line drawn, Jay, between whether you need to seek permission to arrange or not? Say you have a choral work and you've purchased the SATB choir and now you want to adjust it for an a cappella group, with different things there.
Okay. So that's a great question, and it's not an easy question, but I can tell you that when I get a request that comes in and says, I want to change this work, the first thing I do is go back to them and say, explain it to me. Okay. I want to see what the nature and extent of, of the arrangement that you're trying to do. If a teacher has told me in the past that I have a kid who can't sing one portion, so I want to lower it, I'm going to tell the teacher, go right ahead. Okay. But for example, if they want to make something like, and a teacher calls me and says, I want to, put in different instruments. I want to do something for example, for marching band, I want to change this concert work or this band work and make it for marching band. Those will need an arrangement. But one thing that we have to understand, and Larry said it perfectly, is that we really do take into account the educational aspect. I mean, that is like upfront for me. When I get an email from a teacher, I'm thinking two things. Number one, I can't imagine what kind of budget the teacher has. Okay. And I know they really need to do this. And you know what? It keeps the kids playing music. It keeps the kids interested in music. So I do take into account the nature and extent of the arrangement. If it's a simple change in key, I'm going to tell the teacher to go right ahead. Okay. But if they're taking a piece and making it for marching band, and I know there are a lot of agencies out there that are the middle person with respect to marching bands, but if you're changing something from marching band, I will charge a fee, but I will be cognizant of whatever the budget it is. Okay. Like Larry said, we're not out here to make $1 million. We really want to work with teachers because, let's be honest, they're the lifeblood for us as educational music publishers. So it really, I really need to get information from them. And if it's just a minor thing, I'll tell them go right ahead. But if it's something that's major, like changing instruments or for a marching band or something like that, there will be a fee.
Gotcha.
Goes
And-
back to
and-
what we said earlier, though, about just ask.
Just ask, exactly.
And now-
You just
and
got to
now
ask.
just
It. Yeah.
Right. Even if you get a, if they contact you at Carl Fisher and you say, go ahead on this choral, say just changing a key, that doesn't constitute that all publishers would say the same advice.
Right. It just,
So you
it's
should
just
always ask.
right. I mean, I know a lot of publishers will do that and some will not, but I could tell you that we take I really take a view is, what are you doing? I mean, I really need to know if you're doing something minimal and stuff like that. You know what? I'm not going to charge you because I don't feel that it's a major arrangement. And if they're saying that we're just doing it for this performance, it's just a one performance, they're going to change the key. I'm like, I would think that I'd be considered the Grinch that stole Christmas if I charge these people. I mean, that's how I look at it. I look at it as that they're doing it for one concert. I'm like, I better be a nice guy than a bad guy.
There you go. Mike, how about when it comes to popular music and licensing, a pop arrangement? And so I have a concert band version of a Harry Potter piece, and I want to, make it for woodwind choir or something like that. What's the process there? And are the publishers like Alfred or Hal Leonard able to grant those, or do those also, like a synchronization, go back to the original copyright owner, like Warner Chappell?
Sure. So we handle all arrangement licensing for any of the stuff that we have exclusive rights to. That's the Warner Chappell catalog. A lot of those older EMI catalogs, EMI Mills, Warner Brothers Entertainment, Led Zeppelin, Abco. We handle the pop stuff for that. So the way that it goes, it'll come through our licensing site, our licensing queue, or through an email, or through a third party. There's a lot of third party licensing companies who handle these. We then have to send it along for approval. We have a list of artists that require approval. Some don't require approval. Some on our list, I'll be honest, are automatic denials. This isn't an Alfred thing. This writer does not permit their work to be arranged at all. The things that are out in the market are the only things that are available. So once we get approval for the things that we need approval, then we'll draw up the license agreement and send it along. Now the pop stuff becomes difficult because you can have, especially now amongst a lot of the modern pop stuff, it's not unnormal to have 12 writers, 15 writers on a song. And now you're talking about going to multiple publishers. And if Alfred only has 6.25%, we might print and sell this marching band. But if you want to make it into a different arrangement and a medley, you're going to have to go contact all the other publishers to get their permission to. And that's where it gets tricky. That's where those third parties can be helpful. Alfred works with them. We do not have any exclusive agreements with any third-party publishers. Third-party permissions. If you went to them and wanted to use them because you don't want to go to all the different publishers, fine. If you come to us, the fee is the exact same on our end that we charge the third-party person versus charge you directly. I want people to know that we're not charging any less or more on each side for any arrangement license. It's the exact same on as far as our end goes. It's just a matter of ease of use for the teacher. How adept are they at this? If you pick a song with one writer or one publisher and it's easy, it makes it simple. But if you have one that's a pop song and then the kids want to play it because it's really popular right now, it makes it more difficult. So that's the whole process on our end.
And I add to that, though, that I hear all the time is if they get that permission to arrange and they arrange that song, then somehow they feel as though they have now some ownership in that arrangement and they're able to then sell that to other people. Absolutely 100% not. The arrangement still is the property of the copyright owner, whatever company that might be. So keep that in mind. It's for a specific purpose. You're asking for that permission to arrange for your use with your group only, period.
Right.
It's probably in both of their Jay and Larry's agreements too, but it's spelled out that way in Alfred's agreement too. It says that all copyright goes to the original owner, Warner Chappell or whoever it is, and they own the rights to it. There's a lot of reasons for that, but one of the main reasons is pop writers would never let you do anything if you were going to own copyright of the new arrangement. They'd never let anyone make any derivative works of their
Right.
Yeah, we make sure that we put in, like Michael was saying, in our licenses, we'll put in, when someone does an arrangement, the exact copyright notice that has to go on the arrangement, which shows that the ownership remains with Carl Fisher or Theodore Presser or whatever company it is.
Right. So when it comes to getting a permission to arrange, probably at least 30 days again to put in that permission, or as soon as you know, especially if it's pop, you need to understand that it might take quite a long time to get.
From my end, I'd say as soon as you know, put it in. There are requests that it depends on the time of year and how busy we are. There are some times that we get a request in that day and you're getting a license that day. That's rare, but there's things that we don't need approvals on. I don't need to go outside and ask anybody. I can just do it. But there's also times of years, I'm talking about currently, we have over 400 arrangement requests sitting in queues right now waiting to be processed. And that's not a backlog. That's only within the last 30 days, those 400 different requests. So it's a timing thing. Also, some artists require approvals. I'm not going to get into which artists, but some artists, it's not in our hands. We send it along and I keep bugging them and say, can you please approve this and please approve this? And it just takes a while.
Gotcha.
Don't start arranging until you get the permission.
Yeah.
Right. I was just going to ask that. Best to wait until you get the permission before you start arranging and putting the time in to do that, correct?
Yeah.
Because you could get denied.
Or you may have to change your whole show or whatever.
Yeah.
All right. Let's quickly move on to digital editions of music. They've been around for quite some time, but during COVID again, and Jay brought it up, schools need access to digital music more and more, whether they're PDF copies that the teacher has made of their printed copies, or when they've used the service like Smart Music now has a print add-on feature. Mike, maybe can you tell us a little bit more about the print add-on feature in Smart Music and what that is?
Yeah, so the Smart Music feature print, it's an additional tier of subscription that teachers can get. And with that subscription, certain pieces are eligible to be printed. Not all pieces in the catalog. It's just the ones that we've been able to negotiate with the specific writers and publishers, and they'll be able to print for their group. And it's part of the additional tier that they're paying for on top of the regular subscription. Those are able to be used for whatever needs that your group needs them for. Your performance, for to give out copies. If you lost a trumpet part, you can go print another one.
Now, as long as you have the subscription, then you have access to that music. But say while you have that subscription, can you download a piece of music, say a concert band work, and keep it in your library for future use?
No, from what I understand, it's while you have the subscription is that the printed copies are considered valid. Yeah.
Okay. And then there's other situations, Larry, say I have a concert band where I have a library. I'm a teacher and I have a library worth of music and I want to scan it. So I have a backup copy. Is that okay? And also, can I share that music with my students and send them a Google folder, say, of all the first clarinet parts for the concert?
And well, the short answer is no, not without permission from the publisher, and you probably would have to pay some fee unless the publisher is providing it to you in that fashion, whether that's a PDF download or whatever. But like there's some retailers who sell e-print sort of thing, but it's based on the number of instruments that you choose to buy as well. So essentially, if you're buying that set, you're buying that printed or choral, you're buying that printed copy. And unfortunately, I'll continue on the choral route a little bit. Unfortunately, it happens a lot where we give out free copies at reading sessions, at conventions, and then choral people think, well, I have this, so I should be able to just distribute this to my students and we can sing the song. The other thing is, I will say with choral music, is if you have 30 people in your choir and you only buy the minimum 5 copies, that's not enough to outfit your choir. So then you're actually circumventing the copyright law there as well. Again, you're avoiding a purchase by the things that you're doing. And that ultimately that hurts all of us in the long run.
I think that's probably the key to all of this is if you're trying to avoid a purchase, that probably is your cue to seek out permission and make sure that it's okay to do. Jay, keeping a PDF of a copy of music for archival purposes, just as a backup and to print from as necessary, is that kind of crossing a line?
Okay, that's another tough question. Basically, teachers, we have to be honest with each other that teachers do that. We got to be honest that they keep an archival copy. My thought on the matter is, I'll first ask you, like, if they say I want to make copies, I'm going to ask them, did you buy it? Okay, that's the first thing I'm going to say. Is this a purchase? Like sometimes they say can I make copies of it? And my thought pattern is this, and I'm really honest with the teachers. It's like, basically, what we're trying to do here is we earn a little bit of money for our composers. It's not a lot of money, but it's money when someone purchases it. And this money tells the composer that, go keep composing music. So when you're just making copies without asking permission or paying a fee, it takes away from the composers, basically their right to earn a living, if you want to think of it that way. So that's why I tell these teachers that if you have, like, for example, the choral thing that Larry brought up is like, that's sometimes it's very difficult. And, when you see that a teacher has purchased 5 copies and we know that they have more than 5 kids in their choral, it's difficult for us because we're trying to make sure that these composers receive some money so that next year they're going to create 3 more chorals. So I tell the teacher, you really have to buy the amount that you have for your choral group. And if you're not doing that, you're really hurting the composer. Don't look at me as, the big bad publisher. Think about the composer that has created that work. And what you're doing is you're taking, even if it's, if it's 20 copies, that'll make the composer $7, that's $7 out of his or her pocket. So that's what I tell the choral directors, that you really have to buy it. Now, if it's out of print or something like that, or if it's backlogged at, say, J.W. Pepper or something like that, then I'll give the authority for them to make copies, but they'll pay a fee. Okay, but they really, really have to contact us and tell us what's going on if they're making copies. If you just make the copies right out, that's a problem. It's a huge problem.
Got it. Thank you. I think we'll ask one last question before we'll go to the Q&A. Is maybe we could just go around the room real quick. And what's the last bit of copyright advice that you'd like to share with teachers that maybe we haven't touched upon? Jay?
If you ever want to use a piece of music, no matter, you don't know exactly what you need to do, you don't know if you need a license, permission, the better part of valor, contact the publisher. Don't worry about it. And we're nice guys. I mean, listen, I deal with Larry all the time. I deal with Michael. Michael and Larry are great guys. We're not bad people. Okay, we really aren't. So if you think, do I need a license? Do I not? Is it still in copyright? Is it public domain or whatever it is? You can reach out. I mean, I answer a lot of emails. If someone says, I have this work from 1912, do I need a license? I'm going to be honest with them and say, if you don't. If you're making an oral recording, an audio recording, you don't. I'm going to tell them what they want to know. Just ask us. We're really here to help. Part of our job, of course, is to make sure we issue licenses correctly, but we're also here to help. So please reach out to us. I can't express that more. Just reach out. I'm a nice guy. See, I got a nice smiley face. I'm a nice guy. I will help. That's how I look at it.
Thanks, Jay. How about Larry?
You know, Jay really said it all on that, but what I will reiterate is that, you know, we want to teach students that music has value. That's really important to me as a former music teacher, band director. It's also really important that we realize that this is a whole community, musical community. This is a musical ecosystem, as it were, and it affects. And when we don't pay for something that we should pay for in the music ecosystem, it's hurting everybody in the process. And that goes all the way down to the person who picks the piece off the shelf and sticks it in the box. You know, that those people are going to lose their jobs if we don't have, you know, composers who want to write music to sell, because you're basically just taking whatever you can download from the internet or whatever and making photocopies. So it's really important that you realize that we need to support each other in order for us to have a musical community for forever and continue to grow and have, as Jay said earlier, have more people write more music that your students will love to play.
That's great. Thank you, Larry. How about Mike?
What I'd like to relay to everyone is, when I was going through high school and then into undergrad, I just looked around and I noticed there were so many musicians who had no idea of any type of music law or music business. And I would just love if the teachers, as you're going through the process of these, why not involve the students, get one of them or two of them to help you along this route, and that will teach them about the business and industry. It'll teach them about the copyright industry. Along with learning the music side, there's other educational aspects of music that you can get them involved in. And I think that would be great. Like, if they want, have them involved with the sync licensing, you know, get your students involved in this type of thing. And I think that would be really helpful. I also want to thank the teachers who do contact us, because anybody who contacts us, you're trying to do the right thing. We already know when you contact us and ask us for a photocopy license, or can I do this, can I do that? You're trying to do the right thing, because we all know there's tons of teachers out there that aren't even contacting. They're just doing it. It doesn't matter. So the ones who contact, we already know we're on a good foot.
Very true. Very true. Thank you. So we'll bring in Greta real quick, and she's got some questions from the chat. We probably have time for one or two.
All right. Okay. Well, let's see. We've got 3 top questions here that I think are really relevant. Let's go with, this is a question from Caleb. Caleb says, I've arranged music for marching bands and college bands, etc., as a freelancer. Is it on my part to get these licenses and permission, or on the school who has hired me to do the arranging?
Do you guys mind if I take this?
Yeah, go ahead.
As far as what Alfred believes, we believe that it's on the performing organization and the group who's going to be publicly playing it and distributing the copies. The school, the teacher is going to be performing it. They're the ones who are actually going to have the photocopies in their hand. Alfred requires both the signature of the arranger and of the school on each license. Some licensees, it's just different. So we require both. The license is going to be made out to the school. It's going to be their responsibility, but we make an acknowledgement that the arranger knows, hey, you can't distribute this. It's only for this group. It's not for any other group.
Right.
Anything else?
100% agree.
Else?
100%.
All right, Greta, we can do another one then.
Great. I think this is a pretty common one. Question from Terry. Can you use a copy, photocopy, just for students to bring home to practice while retaining the original in the band room or orchestra room or choir room?
Jay, why don't you jump in on that one?
Okay. Another tough question. Thank you very much. Basically, I understand the problem that, I've speak to a lot of music teachers. The problem is if they buy the set, give the kid who does viola, the sheet music, and when it comes back at the end of the year, there's like chocolate on it and there's all sorts of stuff on it. I get that. I get that. So, a lot of it gets destroyed, and we have to be honest with each other that these are middle school and some high school kids, and they're gonna totally, God knows what they do with this music. Okay, so my school of thought on that is that they can make if they've purchased the set and they're given the viola part, if they want to make a copy of the viola part to the person that plays viola, I will let them. However, under the proviso, as soon as that year is over, the copy comes back to the teacher destroys it. Okay, the copy must be destroyed. So therefore, we do permit that to happen if they have purchased a full set. And once the school year is over, the kid must return the copy and the copy must be destroyed. That's how I view it.
Remember, you're purchasing the music. You're not
Yes.
purchasing the paper.
Yeah.
So if the and paper is consumable, it
Yeah.
wears out, right?
It wears out. Yeah.
So you may have to buy another one, but you're buying the music. You're not buying the paper.
Any comments on that, Mike?
No, sounds good. I'm with them. Yeah, no, I understand. My main thing with photocopies on things like that is that we don't want them to be making a copy just so that two viola players can have copies. As long as the one is sitting in the closet, that's another story too, right?
And I think it's much easier now to buy individual parts.
Yeah.
If a student
Yes.
loses the drum set part, it is much easier than it was even 10, 15 years ago to buy that replacement part.
Yeah, you can go to either, like, for example, as a Carl Fisher, you can go to our website to buy the parts. You can go to JW Pepper to buy the parts. So you can actually buy parts right now. And relatively speaking, they're unbelievably cheap. Parts are usually like less than $3 or whatever they are. So it's not expensive.
Greta, no, we're out of time. That is everything. So thanks, guys. I really appreciate that. I hope that helps all of us that are watching this today. And we'll go through the chat and try to answer as many questions as possible.
Yes, thank you all.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right. Thanks,
All
Greta.
right. Last little housekeeping here, folks. Thanks for sharing your knowledge and expertise with us today. I have just a couple of reminders. The downloadable certificate of attendance, I just put that in the chat again. Go ahead and click on that and download that. We have also created a short survey for each session. Please click the rate session button to take just 2 minutes to let us know how we did. And we have a few minutes now before our closing keynote session. So grab some water, stretch your legs, and we'll see you at the final session. Bye, folks.
Bye.